and display any relevant documents for each agenda item.
The meeting is recording.
All right. Good evening. I'm now calling the Thursday, October 1st, 2020 special meeting of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District to order. The time is 7:05 p.m. Please note that in support of the physical distancing during the local public health emergency in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order that relaxed Brown Act rules during this public health crisis, we are conducting this meeting via video conference. Because we are video conferencing, we will follow a strict protocol for the benefit of the recording. I will indicate when commissioners, staff, and public will provide comment. If you have called into the meeting and are not using a webcam, please state your name prior to providing your comments for the benefit of the recording. If any participant who is presenting during the meeting would like to leave prior to the end of the meeting, please state your name and announce that you are leaving for the benefit of the recording. Please practice considerate video conferencing etiquette by muting your line when you are not speaking and limiting distracted behavior on the camera. District Clerk Vargas, please conduct the roll call.
Commissioners, I will be conducting all roll calls this evening in the same order. Please remember the order so that you are prepared to provide your comment or vote. President Warren.
Here.
Vice President Vaughn.
Present.
Commissioner Tyson.
Here.
Commissioner Price.
Yes.
Commissioner Spreen.
Here.
Commissioner Carr.
Yeah.
Commissioner Kearney.
Here.
Okay. All commissioners are present. And for the benefit of the recording, I will also conduct a presenters and staff roll call. Marcy Scott, Strategic Planning Consultant and Meeting Facilitator.
Here.
Emergency Services Manager Gluhan.
I'm here, thank you.
General Manager Logan.
Here.
Special Project Service Consultant Hendricks.
Present.
Consultant for Technical Services Victoria Beebe.
Present.
And Legal Counsel Rob Coelho.
Here.
All right, presenters and staff are accounted for.
Excellent. All right, we'll move on to item number 2, which is public comment. Persons wishing to address the district on any subject, whether or not on the agenda, may do so now. Please note, however, the district is not able to undertake extended discussions or action tonight on items not on the agenda. Items may be referred to staff for appropriate action, which may include placement on the next available agenda. Please note that while the district board will hear comments upon items which are on the agenda at this time, the district will not act upon such items until the item is under consideration by the district. District policy is to limit public testimony to 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have any public comments on items on or not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll now move on to item 3, preliminary successor strategic plan for 2020-2022. Facilitator Scott, please present the item.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, commissioners and staff, stakeholders, and members of the public. Thank you for an extra evening tonight to talk about the strategic plan. And my name is Marcy Scott. I'm with Municipal Resource Group, and I'm happy to be here with you tonight on this important process. So to begin, we'll be working off a PowerPoint tonight, given that we're all in different locations. Normally in a process such as this, we all get in one room and we have lots of sticky notes, all the stuff that I love. But unfortunately, we can't do that. So we thought the next best thing is to work from a slide deck. Let's begin with next slide. And let's see. Yeah, great. And one more, sorry. So we have 3 commissioners who've been serving on the ad hoc subcommittee for the strategic plan, and that's Commissioners Price, Spreen, and Carr. They held 2 community meetings in August and have compiled information that has informed the materials here tonight. We are asking for input and feedback and discussion, which I will then take and prepare a draft document and return to the full commission with the full document for further review. And also for Commissioners Warren, Vaughn, Tyson, and Kearney, this is also their opportunity to really dive into the Successor Strategic Plan. Okay, so in the packet tonight that was posted with the agenda, we had a staff report from the September commission meeting. And I think at this time, Sarah, if I can share my screen, I'd like to just pull up one page that we can look at. Let me see here. And this page, let me see if I can make that a little bigger. Everyone can see that. This is a piece of the staff report. And what I'd just like to point out quickly is the district mission. This is the mission statement that is in the original current strategic plan with one slight change, which is the addition in the highlight area right here. And then secondly, we have some proposed revisions to the district values. And I wanted to open up to the commission to see if there were any comments on these two portions, the mission and the values. Is there any comment from a commissioner with regard to these two items?
I'll comment just that I've seen them. I've had the luxury of seeing these before, so I have no comments here, and I've already spoken with Marcy about them. So
okay,
I have no additional comments.
very good. All right, and
Commissioner Carney, sorry for not getting off mute. So I had a couple comments, some editorial comments that I passed to Jay Logan.
oh, terrific. That's great. Okay. And we will incorporate those, and those will come back to you in the document, the full document that returns. So thank you for your input.
Yeah, and thank you, Commissioner Kearney. The value statements, I think, are very nice that you provided to us. So we'll infuse those into this document, if that's okay.
Very good. Okay. Excellent. Well, let's move forward. I'll stop sharing and turn it back over to you, Sarah, to put the slides back on, and we'll proceed with the slides. Okay, next slide. I just would like to point out that this process is very important, and it's about doing what we can now to prepare for the future. And I think we've seen glimpses of the future through this whole COVID period and certainly through the wildfires. And I can't stress enough how important this process is. And I thought this quote kind of captured that for us. And moving on to the next slide, more specifically for the district, the strategic plan is a very important document, and what we refer to as one of the three pillars that guides the district in its mission, along with the strategic plan, along with the annual budget and the community wildfire preparedness plan, Annex 4. These are really critical documents that guide us for both the short term and the long term. And really helps frame the future challenges and helps us develop positive solutions in a time of rapid change. Next slide. All right, so for tonight, first of all, we need to adapt to current conditions. And I've seen this commission quickly pivot to a virtual format back in March and April with declaring essential government functions and moving to virtual meetings. And we also know that we're in a time of incredible change, starting back in March with COVID. Here we are. And what we would like to do is update and build upon the existing strategic plan. And we see a more streamlined plan as our successor strategic plan. We are looking at a 2-year period given the rapid rate of change. And so tonight, what we'd like to focus on is reviewing accomplishments briefly, and then looking at strengths, challenges, and opportunities. And at that point, I'll stop and check in for any comments or questions. And then the bulk of our time we'll spend looking at some draft goals and objectives. So with that, let's look very quickly at where we have been. And so these are the accomplishments. Next slide. We have what the district has done over the past several years is really developed an organization, defined tasks to organize work to meet service demands, conducting a benchmark compensation analysis in a manner consistent with public sector approach, and preparing a new commissioner handbook to help ease transitions of newly appointed commissioners so they can hit the ground running. The district has established consistent bid processes and are utilizing best practices and vendor procedures, as well as creating electronic records management practices. And moving along with some additional accomplishments, the district has made great strides in communication and improved outreach through the website, the use of the OK cards. And here we have some of our very helpful workers. We have at the top picture some vendors who are helping chip brush, and you can see that large pile of brush. And some of our furry helpers down below that have provided goat grazing services. And these are all programs that have been implemented to help control hazardous fuel and reduce hazardous fuel. And continuing on to the next slide. The district has developed partnerships with Fire Safe Council, who are informing fuel reduction programs. The district has worked very hard at establishing positive collaboration with local agencies, including water agencies and county fire personnel. The district made a presentation at Town Hall in front of the Town Council to express strong support in their adoption of higher standards for fire safe building regulations. And the district has been working on increasing technology use in terms of a variety of areas, such as the website, social media, which we hope will continue. And as an example, in the next slide, many residents are finding the website is a helpful resource for a wide variety of information. And the website has a number of hyperlinks to all kinds of content. And residents can also use an enabled form to communicate directly to staff through the website. And the last slide on accomplishments captures the ARC, which is pictured in the upper right picture, and that is a storage structure that is filled with all kinds of equipment that is available at any time of any day, as needed in an emergency or for drills. And the district has worked very hard to revitalize the Los Altos Hills CERT program, which has numbers of around 80 to 100 of people participating. And the picture down at the bottom center is an evacuation drill that was conducted recently. and I believe that is Commissioner Carr assisting with people practicing as if it were an actual evacuation that unfortunately became all too real here recently. Okay, next slide. So that concludes our look backwards with some accomplishments. Now we'll change gears and look at the path forward and start by looking at some district strengths. So these next few items will inform us as we arrive to our goals statements. So to begin, some strengths that the district can leverage include local decision-making to meet specific needs of the community. Commissioners are out and about in the community at meetings, talking to neighbors, and they hear what's on residents' mind and what's concerning them. And that informs programming and is important, that communication with the residents. The district enjoys ample resources for programs and has skilled and trained commissioners and staff. As some examples, the commission has a retired battalion chief, has a trained search and rescue person who works with the American Red Cross to help open evacuation shelters, all very knowledgeable in operations and issues that are facing the district. And staff also very experienced, particularly in public sector operations, as well as fire operations. And the district organization has evolved and continues to evolve to support the myriad of programs that are offered by the district. And in, sorry, one more slide. So no, that's what I thought. Okay, and here we have a visual aid to help see how the organization supports district programming. This is the forward-looking community resiliency chart, and down at the bottom is the district organization and the various functions, and this demonstrates how they support the wide variety of district programming, and it's grouped in two main sections. One of prevention and protection, and the other being integrated hazardous fuel reduction programs. So these are various programs, training opportunities, resources that the district uses to deliver services to the community and support its mission. Okay, and the next slide will then move us into some of the challenges that are faced by the district. One is the public's lack of understanding the district's role. Some folks don't understand the difference between the fire department and the fire district. There is uncertainty of local versus global control. Another challenge is how to support resiliency of our water infrastructure, which is very critical. And unfortunately, I have some firsthand knowledge of how important that can be from the Thomas fire that occurred in Ventura in December of 2017, when there was a community on a hillside that lost water pressure, and there was absolutely no hydrant pressure and no water available. And that was an opportunity where I really learned that firefighters are incredibly effective even without water. They engaged in a whole lot of activities that saved houses and property. Then moving on to other challenges, there is uncertainty in terms of a long-term financial plan, as well as a challenge of administrative facilities to serve the community in terms of meeting space and in other examples of a need for facility space. Moving on to the next slide, we are well aware of what long-term drought and other weather events can do. We experienced the CZU wildfire just over the ridge, and in fact experienced ember casts within our district boundaries, meaning live embers were landing here And fortunately, the county fire department was deployed and ready for that. But we experienced danger like we had not had to for quite a while. So moving on with other potential challenges are natural disasters such as earthquakes, and utilization of current technology, which we hope to continue to leverage and implement as we move forward. And then with commissioner and staff turnover, which is inevitable, there's a potential loss of historic knowledge. Okay, so that's a summary of some challenges that inform our strategic plan, and moving on to our last category here, which is opportunities. And here we have an increased attention by our community to resiliency in the face of wildfire. We're fortunate to have a cohesive staff with subject matter expertise, and the district enjoys many partnerships with community organizations of all sizes and types. I think there's certainly opportunity to redefine programs with using a regional lens and looking at regional relationships and how we can all work together to achieve common goals. One thing very fortunate about this area is residents who are eager for resources, and they're also eager to participate and to help. And another opportunity is county personnel and processes that the district can leverage. And next slide. The district has more modes for communication. Some examples are listed here, and we have a picture of some commissioners and staff working on an informational video about water and water hydrants. And that's a coming attraction for the website, to feature some video features. So that concludes the opportunities, strengths, and challenges. And at this time, I'll pause here. And if any of the commissioners have questions or would like to comment or add anything, please do.
This is Duffy speaking.
Yes.
I thank you, Marcy. I think you have done an outstanding job in solidifying all the things that we talked about early on and presenting it in this new format where we'd be used to having the public participating and adding their 2 cents on their overview of the district. I think one of the most important things that I'm finding out as we go through all of this was the reason we took the first strategic plan underway was to increase our the knowledge of what the district was all about, because it was rather an unknown thing. Many in the public had no clue as to what we were all about. And I think we have achieved some of that. But just recently, I'm finding more people saying they didn't understand the relationship to the town, to the county. I mean, here we have this 3-party agreement with the city of Los Altos, with the Central Fire, and with our district, and yet people don't even appreciate that or understand that. So I think we have a job to do thinking about where we're going to go forward here in the future. Having, if we get through the audit and we resume our activities again, we need to sort of address that in a meaningful way. So that would be my only thought thinking going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, make note of that. Other comments, suggestions?
Well, my comment is that I like the way you put this together. It helps to look at those achievements. I see that they're very broad. You covered a lot of ground without spending too many slides or too many words, and I think that was reassuring to me to see how much we've accomplished, especially lately.
Looks like Phil has a comment, Marcy.
Yeah, if I might, this is Phil with Personal Water District.
Oh, hi, Phil.
Yeah, I'm kind of capitalizing on Commissioner Price. I think that there is a clarification that would be good to have with the residents between, you know, the local agencies on how Los Altos Hills County Fire District works. I know I know for a fact that that's a misunderstanding. As well, I'd like to just comment that I thought the presentation was very good. The hazardous fuel is a key thing in Los Altos Hills. I've worked in the hills for longer than I've been with the water district, and defueling the hills is very important, and it's a key function to mitigate this fire hazard as well. You know, we were talking about the embers that were falling from the CZU fire. It just takes one and landed in the wrong spot, and it's a bad situation. As far as water agencies, I live here in Ben Lomond, so I got to be a part of the CZU fire. We do not have any overground plastic water mains like San Lorenzo Valley Water District did, which was lost in the CZU fire. I'm not sure what those lines were laying on top of the ground for, or bridged above grounds and valleys and gaps. I don't have an understanding about that quite yet, but certainly going to try and understand why they did what they did. Anyhow, we certainly don't have that, but we are very well connected as far as the water protection. Every water main that we install, whether we are partnered or not, fire protection is always considered. Matter of fact, even in your in the early years, getting your water distribution licenses, that's the number one consideration is life and safety. Mm-hmm. So, in which, you know, fire flows. And so anyway, I just wanted to also the resources for the residents. I think that'd be another key component that might be good.
Anything specific?
I can't say anything specific because I am recently not in the field as much. However, I've heard that it'd be nice for there to be, and I know Marcia Hovey has done a very good job at trying to. She put together. I'm not sure. There must have been 70, 75 people from all different agencies a couple years back at the council chambers in Los Altos Hills. It was a pretty good undertaking getting all the agencies together. But that's the kind of stuff that I think would be pretty beneficial, and then open it up to some of the public, or all the public, I should say, so that they can hear how things would go. Because when you talk about evacuations, I mean, I was just looking at pictures in Napa, and there was the traffic was so bad getting out of Napa that they were stopped on the freeway. Yeah. And so why that was, I don't know. I don't want to point any fingers, but the evacuation planning, that's important. Los Altos Hills is got some funny roads to it. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for your presentation. It was very good.
Thank you, Phil. So I've made a note here about community dialogue, and that is very important, and we probably do want to think about that and talk about that as we look to the forward. I am aware district staff have done presentations. I know there was a presentation at Los Altos Hills Town Council. There was a museum exhibit, I think, in City of Los Altos. So there've been some excellent creative approaches here. I think we want to just keep that momentum going, and the question is how to continue that. So I think that's really important. Any other comments, reactions, thoughts at this point? George, did you have a comment? You made a comment.
I already did.
Yeah, okay, right, that's right. Okay, very good. All right.
This is Terry. Sorry, Marcy. So
Sure.
I don't remember all your slides, but I would want to make sure that there's an understanding that how important fire science is to the decisions we make.
Yes.
So I don't know if that was included in the slides. If it was, I apologize.
Well, Terry, you are prescient, because that's exactly where we're headed. So we will just segue into talking about goals and objectives with Terry's intro.
So my check in the mail.
Well, yes, that's right. It's coming. So let's change gears. And this is really the meat of what we have to talk about. So the next slide is a chart that we have put together. I'm sorry, it is a lot of words. And when you use PowerPoint, we're not supposed to use this many words on one page, but we're going to do it anyways. It seemed helpful to have the 5 goals together so you can look and compare. And this chart shows 5 proposed goals along the top row, and then below each goal is several proposed objectives. None of this is set in stone, but just as a general concept, as we jump in here, these goals are intended to guide the district with a regional lens, to capitalize on relationships with stakeholders and with various agencies, and to demonstrate a commitment to continued improvement. And so our question tonight is, are these goals sufficient to do that? And also to keep in mind that we're looking at a 2-year time frame here. And so we have our ongoing operations that will continue, that we saw in the forward-looking resiliency chart, but also these very important strategic items. So if I may, let me just walk through very briefly each of the 5 goals, and then open it up for the commission to discuss, and then we'd be happy to have public comment also. So goal number 1 is about establishing a flexible organization, and it's about also being adaptive. The only thing certain about the future is that there will be change, and adaptability is very important. And both of those things will guide how we look to delivery of regional services. And the 2 objectives below are about making sure that we are thinking about the alignment of the commission and the staff to meet current and future needs, as well as looking at how we utilize district assets. Now, examples of district assets include personnel, the budget, equipment, land, district partnerships, the website, etc. So there are lots of tools here that the district has. And we want to be thoughtful with how those are deployed. So that's goal number 1. Goal number 2 speaks to programs, and that here in the middle of this goal is exactly the words that Commissioner Kearney used, built on fire science. That is very important in the programs, how we maintain and they continue to evolve, that is based on fire science. It's based on the CWPP Annex 4, and that programs are aligned with the district budget. So specific objectives that can help us achieve that goal would include seeking input from all the folks we work with, whether they're residents, vendors, or staff, so that we can continue to assess and improve programs, that we would use technology strategically. And an example might be GIS to help us with brush chipping and shaded fuel breaks. And that we utilize the highest standard and best use of hazardous fuel mitigation measures. Then moving on to goal number 3, this is a more specific goal, and it is important in terms of staying current with fire science, and this would be to update and revise the CWPP Annex 4 and the addendum guide. And I understand this is a guide written by staff to help translate some of the more technical aspects of the CWPP to help the public and the residents really understand the importance and the complexities within the CWPP. So this will be a process that would include holding community meetings, collaborating with our variety of partners, again, focusing on the fire science principles, and then a goal to strive to be the best practice leader in this area. Okay, moving on to number 4. In terms of operating, this is seek common ground and a reasonable path forward to incorporate county management audit recommendations and county feedback. Specifically here, we have objectives of using county council expertise and county procurement policies and procedures, as well as using the post-audit report to inform our efforts moving forward. And then very quickly, our last goal that we propose here is really about managing and measuring and conducting a periodic review of progress on the strategic plan and establishing timelines and outcomes for each objective. So with that sort of universal look at sort of what we see in the future for the next 2 years, let me then turn it back to the commission and just ask for some discussion and thoughts and any feedback.
I have a question.
Yes, is that Janice?
Under objective number 4, audit recommendations, does this have to do with the controversy we had with the audit? I think it came from the county, from the county.
Yes, Commissioner Carr, this does relate to the county audit, and that the district would look at the post-audit report. A whole lot of work has already gone into the audit report and the discussions with county. And I think this is carrying that forward to see what other changes may be needed moving forward and how to best work with the county to find areas of common ground so we can all move forward and all work through a common mission.
Does that also apply to objective under number 1, the regional approach to fire protection? And I'm thinking of the fact that the county was thinking we're rich enough, we should share our resources. Is that what we're talking about when we say a regional approach?
Well, I think the future is uncertain as to specific structure. I think that there is a thought that having a regional approach is beneficial to all the parties and seeing how we can work together. I think the challenges that are looming are significant, and really, we have to partner with the town, with the county, with the city of Los Altos, as well as all the other different agencies that we work with. I think that public agencies are going to have to find ways to work together, as well as the other community partners. I think that that's what the goal is moving forward, is how we can all work together. So I think you are touching on some common links here, and some guidance is going to come in the future, in the near future, as various decisions are made, and we don't know what those are, and we'll just have to deal with those as they come. But we want to be as prepared as possible.
Thank you.
I think I saw Commissioner Tyson had his hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment, if you go back to your slide you just showed, and my problem is that I used to teach a class on how to do goal setting, okay?
Oh,
and,
excellent.
And so, you know, when I look at, you know, the SMART goals,
Yeah.
I don't see any S, M, or T, okay? I don't see any specific, I don't see measurable, I don't see trackable. That's one of the words used. And so my question is this where we end, or is this just a starting point? Because frankly, I like to see goals like set up 5 fuel mitigation efforts that embrace both town and county properties and focused, you know, something that,
yeah.
So when you look at this after 2 years, you say, did I do that or not? And rather than, these are largely aspirational. So I don't mean to be critical, but I love me some specific goals.
I hear you, and I agree. These are, goal number 3 is fairly specific. The rest are very broad. So I think it would be helpful if we could reach some more specifics tonight through our discussion, or in the near future. I think goal number 5 speaks to things will continue to evolve. This to some degree can be a living document. We can come back and revisit it. But certainly appreciate your comments. And if there's anything specifically you would like to recommend, that would be helpful.
And I'd be happy to do that. I don't feel like this is the reflective enough format with everybody sitting here, but having this in front of me, I could definitely pencil out at least some thoughts. And then I'm sure some of them are wrong, but at least it would give you an indication of what that might look like.
That would be very helpful. And frankly, completely understand you're just digesting this now. And I think with further thought, we certainly welcome any input. And I'm happy to receive emails or talk on the phone with anybody who would like to have some further input. I think that'd be helpful. And we'll talk about next steps, and we can talk about an appropriate time frame to allow that kind of review and input.
This is Duffy speaking. And yes, I agree with you, George, I think, and appreciate that. But we're in such a state right now of not knowing what the outcome is going to be until October 6th as to whether we're going to be in existence. And so it makes it very hard to come up with too many specific things. Or should we just go ahead, forge on, just as if there was no October 6th, and make those goals? And I agree with you. I think it would be very good to have something specific down that we could measure against. As we did with the last strategic plan, we could actually say we needed to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and then you could look back quickly and at the end of a few months, figure out if you actually did it. So basically, yeah, I would say that's important to do. The other thing that I like very much what I see in the existing proposed plan, proposed goals and objectives, is that you are including information for community involvement. I think that's so important right now, just coming off of what we're currently going through and recognizing the need to have more community involved in understanding why we exist, how we exist, what services, what are our missions. Basically, I think each one of these steps we need to involve the community and have that as a continuing thing that we're involved doing, whether it's with, I think the website is great, but I know so many people call me up and tell me, oh, well, they're just referred to another URL that they have to go look at. They want something more meaty right now. And so that's hard, I think, to just depend on the website doing everything for you. So somehow we're going to have more outreach, I think, where the commissioners are more involved in these sessions. For example, Phil talks about this meeting that was held 2 years ago with Marcia Hovey, where we had PG&E, we had all the water companies, we'd had everybody together at Town Hall discussing how we would handle an emergent situation and who would call that emergency. There was a lack of knowledge as to how we even got involved. When do we tap our CERT people to get ready and run out and jump in their cars and start doing, neighborhood evaluations? Basically, that was excellent. And I think that was 2 years ago. Marcia put it together. And I think we need more of that kind of thing too on a strategic plan process. So that would just be my little input. I think number one, the whole community thing is important, and I'm glad to see us doing that now in this proposed goal and objectives.
Great, thank you.
Marcy, Commissioner Kearney has his hand raised, and then we have 2 members of the public who'd also like to speak.
Very good. Okay, Commissioner Kearney.
Hey, Marcy, thank you. So I noticed in the material that was sent around, specifically the August 13th community meeting memo, it refers to 2 surveys on page 2. I'm just wondering about the status of the surveys, and it also said that draft questions were attached for each survey, and I'm not sure that I saw those in the material.
Very good. Yes, we did speak at length about surveys and crafting some questions, and we, working with the subcommittee, we changed direction as we saw a shorter timeline to get this project moving and try to come to a successor strategic plan. And so we moved away from conducting a survey, which would take several weeks. And that's why we don't have any further detail tonight with regard to a survey process. So you are correct in your reading. We have moved instead to, through this process, gathering input and then getting a draft ready for review and more edits.
Okay, thank you.
I believe I saw Drew Anderson first, and then Dave Stewart after that, please.
Okay, very good, thanks.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I thank you for the invitation to attend. This has been very insightful. For those of you who may not be totally familiar with me, I have a 20-year history with the Emergency Communication Committee, which is a town standing committee, currently co-chair, but also have enjoyed about 12 years with the LAHCFD CERT program, and lately have been working pretty closely with Jay and Denise and Victoria. I am also pleased to see Phil here because he's very kindly volunteered to speak at our ACC meeting about telemetry at the access to the water tanks and to see what's going on in case there's some kind of earthquake or disaster. Which brings me to the thought process, which I'm trying to see which goal it would kind of fit under. Maybe it's where you're getting community involvement, but the water district, which my husband spent 16 years on the board, as Phil knows, has a pretty good, I know it's been updated, emergency plan. The LAHCFD, of course, deals with emergency plan. The town with Marcia has an emergency plan. I'm sure Cal Water has one someplace. I wonder, since my professional background is system engineering process, whether there'd be a way to put a grid together of the common ground among those plans so that you don't get intersection clash. In other words, everybody knows what the organization in place objective is, but there's also the water district emergency plan, the town, and how they all kind of, I pull my hand up, fit together, the intersection management of that. And that's what I would like to see. Maybe it fits in with what George was saying, is maybe it's a specific, under one of the goals is to just have an awareness and a community awareness of who does what, when, and where the common grounds are and where the specialty areas are. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Okay.
This is Jay. Can I make a comment following up on Drew? So Drew, I think you pointed out something that now I'm puzzling over, and that is, do we have a category here that really picks up the emergency preparedness part of what our function and our mission is? And maybe we can build that in, or that maybe that needs to be looked at as, how do we get emergency preparedness and the systems approach to how we work together for that emergency preparedness somehow embedded in this structure, or do we need to expand the structure with another goal or another notch?
Well, that could be part of the program in goal number 2.
Yes, I was thinking we could put it on the forward-looking resiliency chart.
Yeah.
Expand it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree. Definitely. That sounds good.
Yeah.
You know,
Great.
I
Thank you
wonder,
for that systems approach. That's really important to us. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcy.
Absolutely. Very good. It does seem like this common thread really with regard to engagement and community dialogue. And I wonder if we just might want a goal specifically around that. So I'll make a note. We can discuss that further.
We could put that as an objective under goal 2 because it relates back to the forward-looking resiliency community chart.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've got the communication pieces in that chart.
Okay.
I want to lean on Dave Stewart for a minute. Dave, I know you're there. You're so instrumental in being our inspiration, our ambassador here. Can you comment on any of this that we're talking about too?
His hand has been up for a while.
Oh,
I can't see it on my screen, but I want to hear from Dave.
Okay. So I wanted to first agree with Duffy about the relationship between the fire district and the rest of the government around town. I've been with the CERT program for 10 years now, and I still find some corner that I don't understand why the fire district is doing something or who I would talk to get something done. I think an outreach there would be very important. And I also want to agree with Commissioner Tyson that I think an important part of this is much more measurable goals. These are all nice aspirational things, but one of the difficulties I've had with the Fire Commission over time is that we seem to have a bias to discuss as opposed to a bias for action. And I'd like to see things move a lot faster than they move. And I think one of the ways to do that is in number 2, and with this resident, vendor, and staff input, I wouldn't focus so much on the continuous improvement as I would, what are our priorities? What are the important things that we need to get started first? In both the history, I see lots of infrastructure about how the group works better, you have better purchasing. That's all nice, but I'm much more interested in what you're buying. What are you doing for the residents that's going to actually improve fire safety? And I think, that needs to be an important part of the strategic plan is, I certainly understand you always have to sharpen the knives and keep things going. But I think to really look at this, what you want to do is to understand what your goals are. And I would say that one of the first ones would be to start with this list of priorities. What really needs to happen to do fuels reduction? What really needs to happen to improve emergency access for an evacuation or just for getting fire engines where they need to be? And focus it not so much on the organization, but on what you do for the residents. I think that, plays a lot better to everybody if we go that way.
So while you're talking, Dave, if we could put up the forward-looking resiliency chart.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh,
go back
perfect. We'll go back in time. Let's see. It was in with the successes. Let's see if I have the page number. Maybe 18. Here we go.
Yeah, I like this slide for that reason. It
Yeah.
got closer to what are we really doing.
Yes. Yeah, this is our action plan slide, our chart, Dave. And each one of those blues are hyperlinked. So it's a dynamic page. So each little box, even though it's just a little box, it has a whole depth of information behind it on the hyperlink.
Mm-hmm.
And so over here where you have the protection and prevention, those are the programs. Those we can set timelines around. Those we can set priorities for. You know, we could put priorities in the little boxes and say where we're going to have our first focus, then third, fourth, and so on. Over to the right are your integrated hazardous fuel reduction. So we're coming at fuel reduction, at vegetation mitigation, and at getting all of the tinder out of the hills in a systematic, that's Drew's word, and integrated way. And so we're coming at it from all different approaches from a fire science perspective. And those, again, I think can have goal timelines set around them and priorities put to them.
Yeah, and I think there's a bunch of metrics that you can add to this, like how many home ignition zone inspections do you think you can get done in a year?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think this is really helpful. Jay, if you could help me understand, on the right side of the chart, for example, that seems to be the area that is developing.
So I'm going to ask Denise to speak to this, because this is really her roadmap. This is what Denise thrives in. And Duffy, you recall when Denise and Terry presented to your Los Altos Hills Club, and Denise took a tour with the group through this chart. It was almost like playing Monopoly with Denise as she went through it. But Denise, can you speak to this and maybe answer that question that Marcy has? What's developing here? What's kind of in place? What do you want to see be more robust?
Yeah, so thank you. So yeah, as you do look at this, we kind of separated it into a little bit more operational. What is on the right side actually removing fuel? What does that look like on an individual residential level and then in a community level? So that's kind of where those two areas are divided. The left side of the right side, integrated IHFR, being, as Dave had mentioned, the HIZs. To date, we've done 60. That was the initial goal when we made the relationship with Fire Safe Council. You know, you pull numbers out of the sky, and I said, let's do one a week to start somewhere. You know, we've utilized that now 3/4 of the year through. So those are things that we can absolutely use, those metrics that he's talking about, to go, yeah, you know, this is about how many we can project we will need. That was going to be tied into some sort of a program to deliver some kind of product to the resident to utilize to remove the fuels. Unfortunately, with the management audit, a lot of those things, and COVID, a lot of those things were put on hold. So currently we're waiting to just see what happens out of that. But again, that's, you know, something, the chipping program, we now have better metrics around that of what we're getting for a product. We're also, like we've already talked about, letting the vendors have a more opportunity for bidding, a more integrated and competitive bidding process that makes it available to anybody who has the proper equipment to come in and do business in Los Altos Hills. So there isn't monopolizing of any vendors. And again, it gives us more competitive pricing. We're also utilizing the relationship with the Fire Safe Council, which again is a nonprofit, and that in turn is supporting the whole county of Santa Clara, because they don't just represent Los Altos Hills. It's about the mitigation of all the fuel issues around wildland fire and fuels in Santa Clara County. So supporting an organization like that with these programs that they can use as test models to apply in other areas goes back to the county as a whole, not even just looking at Los Altos Hills, but the whole community of the county of Santa Clara County. When we get into the shaded fuel breaks, again, a huge component of where we really want to go moving forward, because that's life safety. We look at our priorities and we always focus around life safety. One of the things we didn't put, and we probably should have on here, is the mission plan, our mission statement. Because again, if we have and take a look at that, if we do the components of that correctly, we don't have to have the response necessarily. If people can be self-reliant and be able to handle an earthquake situation inside their own skill sets, that's CERT training. We've done the evacuation drills. Again, if we can practice some of these things so that people have the competency and confidence to be a self-reliant community and not call 911 and be able to make those decisions, how do we support that? And we've talked about that in the shaded fuel breaks on evacuation routes. How do we support the most safest life safety goals that we can do? So those shaded fuel breaks were shown out of the CZU fire. One of the chiefs in a presentation with Fire Safe Council last month showed where the shaded fuel breaks, everything on the sides of them were burned and the shaded fuel breaks were still green. So that was showing that bolstered that evacuation route. So obviously that's a huge goal for us. Continuing to do the training with evacuations, huge goal. So that's kind of the application of what we're doing there. When we go to that left side, the prevention and protection, this we can expand. This is all of our education components and our programs that we're integrating in. And again, these can all be expanded and developed into better goals. Again, with this audit, we have been slowed with expanding these. So we have a lot of good ideas and we wanted to integrate some more in, but then we kind of had this crisis moment of staff hours that went towards management audit and it kind of lessened some of our detail in these. So we'd love to still continue to get input. But like Jay had said, having these interactive, we're trying to, again, make it easier. Commissioner Price had mentioned, taking you to another URL. Yes, that's not the greatest to give a huge amount of information, but if it's an easy format like this, where it's touch a button and arrive at the place, I think that's going to be better received than having to search in words, because these are smaller pictograms sort of that we can jump off of. Yeah. So if there's any questions, that's about what I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. That's very helpful. What I hear is what would be helpful is to think more about prioritizing. Looking at, here's our programming right now. What programs are we looking to grow? And how do we prioritize where our resources go within this chart and maybe even expand this chart further?
Yeah, can I call on Vice President Vaughn? Are you there? You're the person that I would turn to. If we were in a room right now, I would turn to you and I'd say, Melvin, what do you think? Are we on the right track here? Does this kind of a programmatic operationalizing our programs, does this work when you've been out in the field, when Denise has been out in the field and you're putting out the fires and trying to save property and life? Do you want to comment, Melvin, on are we on the right track here?
So when we participated in the strategic plan last time, we actually set priorities. And I think especially now with all the fires and we no longer have a regular fire season, I think we need to focus on public safety, as the paramount thing. And so one of the things I've always pushed for is an adequate water supply.
Right on.
And I think that I can't stress that enough. And so the next thing we would do is management in the vegetation management portion, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think those are the two top priorities. And then obvious things that will follow, like evacuation plan, large animal rescue, things of that nature, things that will directly benefit us and have the biggest impact in the event that we have a fire in this region. And it's a matter of time, and so we may be overdue. And so we've been good, but we've been lucky as well. So that's where I would put a lot of the focus. And that's always been my position as a member of this board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, can I just comment about one thing that Melvin mentioned that really is, you were the main reason, Melvin, that we really took on the idea of ensuring that our hydrants had adequate water flow. And not only for the Morrow Hill area, but just in general. And it's ironic that we spent so much effort getting those hydrants plumbed correctly and try to fix them all, that we've taken such a hit in the audit for doing the right thing. Do you know what I mean? So I basically think that we're working on, we must ensure always that we have the flow of water, the correct PSI, all of the things that we need. And that hydrant is one of the most important things. So I hope that Rob is listening and can appreciate what we tried to do with our last 5-year plan was to improve our the firefighting capabilities for our firefighters. And I think that we achieved a good bit of that. We still have a ways to go. And so we're anxious to continue working in that direction. So Rob, anything that you can offer in terms of ensuring that we get the flow of water where we need it and the instrumentation correctly put together, that we need to have your efforts working on that situation for the district. Thanks a lot.
And real quickly, sorry, Rob, where I'd like to see us look at is that maybe we are the beta test for the entire county. So if this loss of management on our part and we don't be able to do this any longer, maybe we become the beta test for the county. And what I mean by that is that we've improved the water supply. We've did a great job with vegetation management, and we become the poster child of doing things right. And everybody else that follow us, they emulate us. And so we have the funding to do it. And so theoretically, we should be the first ones that do it.
Right.
And the resources. So.
Yeah.
So this is Rob. In response to Commissioner Price's comments, I'm happy to try to provide any assistance I can. I think portions of the audit related to the legality of certain types of contracting, and you all have committed to the auditor's recommendations to use the county processes. So I'm not certain that the outcome that you're seeking to achieve is in any way prohibited. I think it may be a process question, and to the extent I can help with the process in any way possible, I'll do that.
Great. Thanks a million, Rob. That's terrific.
I see Denise has her hand, but if I could just comment real quick and then we'll move on to Denise. Would it be helpful to have a statement within this document about the commission feels strongly about these two issues, the making sure we can maintain an adequate water supply and that we continue to focus on vegetation management. And really highlight those as priorities. Okay, Denise, please.
Yeah, so just one last comment that I did weigh heavy when I did go through this originally, and it kind of ties into what several comments have been brought up is how do we again brand the fire district and get the information out. So 2 phases of that, how we communicate in, as we talked about, Marcia had organized 2 years ago, the evacuation tabletop exercise that we participated in, which gave a lot of networking components to get everybody together. But then again, when we saw some of the shortfalls of people getting evacuation notice spillovers, so letting the community know where to go to get information and making it easy to find, especially in emergencies, along with signing up for early notifications, obviously is incorporated in that. But that is one of the things too that we need to make sure that the community has so that they can successfully evacuate, successfully, plan in an emergency what they're doing with the most real-time and current and accurate information. So that was another component that we've tried to really streamline and collaborate with the town so that our messaging can be consistent. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Marcy, I think you asked the question, are we prepared to go ahead and say, those are our 2 priorities? And I would say, I agree that those are our two priorities, and my only caution, and I'm on subcommittees for both of those things, or have been in the past. I guess I must really think so, but I guess I'm just, my only caution is to say I don't want to exclude something else that might, those might be our things that we would actually spend money on things, but that doesn't mean that improving our whole emergency communication network or it isn't also up there. I mean, if it came down to it, if it helped this part of the county that we bought our own bulldozer and put our logo on it, I think I'm game for that too. So I don't know if I want to exclude other things, but I certainly endorse those two things that Melvin said as being very important.
Yeah, I do too.
And to be clear, I think we have enough personnel and resources to work on several of these items at the same time. So we won't let anything necessarily go down the waistline, but we would identify, what we consider to be the priority and maybe where we get the best results, and that's life safety immediately. And to expound on what Denise said, the early notification is a huge one. And I remember I made a couple of phone calls and emails, back when we had the lightning storm and whether or not we were actually in evacuation mode. And so it's really important that the citizens have multiple means of notification measures so that everybody feels very comfortable, because not everybody's going to go to the website. Not everybody's going to know how to. So we need to have a reverse 911. We need to have all these other programs in place so that citizens do have as much early notification as possible, and it's clear and it's specific. And there's even maps of what zones and where to evacuate to and those sorts of things. So.
So Commissioner Vaughn, tell me, how does the district fit into that process? Reverse 911 is run by the county, is that right? And that database is managed by the county?
That's correct.
Okay. And I recall, I think it was your last regular commission meeting, wasn't that the September meeting? Chief Glass gave a demonstration about some new technology that they were planning to use and just happened to push it out because it fell within the CZU fire. I can't remember what it was called.
Stonehaven.
Yes, yes. And so I guess my question for you is, what could be the district's role with these various programs? How could the district help the residents?
Well, I think we would go through and we identify every program that's out there that may assist us or help us in the time of need. And then we'd figure out how to implement that program into our program. And so, is there some sort of agreement we enter into with the county, for instance, with reverse 911? What measures do we take? And I don't think that part is going to be very difficult. I think the key is to identify which ones, and then we just go out and find out how we can implement them into our system.
Okay.
And that may be oversimplified, but I don't think it can be that hard. So.
Well, Chief Shoemate's there, but I talked with Chief Glass at length about Zonehaven and with the town, Marcia Hovey's. So what we're doing is we're going to collaborate probably within the next couple of weeks or so, about using zones in the town, which would be similar zones in Los Altos Hill or in the fire district, to identify those zones and then have the emergency notifications set up around that. So it's a collaboration of the agencies. And Chief Shoemate, if you're there, maybe you can mention that. And Captain McCrossan, I don't know if you're using Zonehaven or not from a public safety police perspective.
So from the fire perspective, Zonehaven is a fairly new product for us. We are just in the process of entering all the information. And it's going to be a great tool once it's all fully set up. And as you said, we did use it for the CZU side of the evacuation warning zones along the county line. And it isn't fully functional yet, but it did provide some information for us that made it easier to get the information out to those properties within those zones on letting them know that they were in the evacuation warning. So I don't even fully myself know the capabilities of the product fully, because in fact, Chief Mortensen, who's assigned up there as a battalion chief at Almani Station, that's his battalion chief project, so it's assigned to him. So if you see him walking around there, around the station, feel free to bring up Zone Haven and ask him about it.
And Jay, this is Scott McCross, and you were asking from a police perspective on the public notifications.
Yes.
Specifically, what did you want to know? I mean, we use Alert SCC. We find it an extremely useful tool, but we also use Nixle for our alerts.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's pretty much what I want to just to verify if you were using any other tools, technology tools, maybe that had come along. But you rely pretty much on the fire department to do the evacuation warnings and orders, and then you just assist them through that effort. Is that correct?
But we would do that in a unified command structure. Of course, we would rely on each other to make those determinations.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other comments, thoughts at this point?
Marcy, Denise, I have a quick comment again. I think just to dovetail off what's just been said, I think reaching back to County Fire, to the County of Santa Clara, and doing some practical real-time exercising of those early notifications. We did find a little bit of gapping with our evacuation drill that we had at Saddle Mountain. Because a lot of times the time that the information is pushed, reverse 911 is a different layering. But when the information is pushed, unless it's a real-time need to receive that information, by the time it goes through its process, we don't know how long that information takes to be received by the format that the end user, the resident, has set up. Say if it's an email versus a text message versus a phone call, and to which phone line. That takes every person that's registered in that zip code for that to be exercised, or that has indicated that zip code as a preference for information. So I think that we need to have that system tested, not in the sense of just sending out an information thing that's not time sensitive, but in a time sensitive survey where it's sent, and then how long does it take for it to be received? That's the test that I think needs to have happen, because we're selling early notification, but we've never found out if it's effective. And we did see a little bit again, people were saying it took 30 minutes to get their email evacuation notice versus the 9:30 push that was the notice over Nixle. So, you know, that's in real-time evacuation emergency. That 30 minutes is not an acceptable window. So that's where we need to make sure that we are confident in our systems that they're going to be able to deliver to the level that we've asked the expectation. Thank you.
I agree with Denise on that. I'm not sure what program PG&E is using, but they've gotten a lot better in notifying residents of power outages, right?
Right, so, right.
And then same even with Comcast or whatever they're called now. And so, you know, they've gotten a lot better as well. And so, and then Nextdoor even has done a great job. And so if we could form alliances with, you know, those type of entities, I think that we'd be in a little bit better shape as well. Because that's really the key is to make sure that people are notified. And there's nothing worse than sitting on pins and needles and wondering if your house needs to be evacuated and you'll get notified of it. So
yeah, it's really critical. And I'll tell you, this CZU incident was the first time I really heard the difference between an evacuation warning and an evacuation notice, I guess. Order. Yeah. I just saw the word evacuation and really kind of felt a little panicked. But it was an evacuation warning up by Foothill Park.
Right.
So, and I feel like I'm pretty tuned in. So that was a learning experience for me. So this is really, really good. And I know there has been learning in the fire service from these various fires. I remember the first Santa Rosa fire in October of 2017. when there were all those fatalities, because it just moved so fast and the word just didn't get out. But we've gotten much better, and we're continuing to learn. But what I hear is having different layers is really important, and we need to better understand how those interact and how they play together, and incorporate that into our outreach with the community. So I think this is just really helpful discussion.
Right. Marcy, I just think that this last discussion, the last 20 minutes here discussing the life safety that Melvin spoke of, and the water and the need for the emergency notification, this really moves us up the table, doesn't it, in terms of our priority? I mean, it's sort of answering some of George's questions about what do we want for our priorities. So I think we've had a good meeting tonight to get that accomplished. It's wonderful.
This is going. Really super input. And I think we need to go back to the drawing board with regard to this chart.
Marcy, where I would see it is, I think our goals are probably solid. I think all of this feedback the last 20 minutes is all in the objective areas.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Measurable. So it's kind of wedging in the life safety, the water, all of those, which really are goal 2. Those are our programmatic, prioritizing them and really putting them in the priority is not like 1, 2, 3. It's life safety. And then it's communications, those kinds of priorities, coming back to the commission on October 20th, or determining if we need another meeting before October 20th, or we could have a meeting after October 20th, and then buttoning it up in November if we need to.
Well, let's look at the slide, Sarah. It's called Next Steps, and that follows the goals and objectives chart. What we had planned is I will work on a next draft based on all this great input we've had, do some more finessing of our table of goals and objectives. And then I can return on October 20th at the regular commission meeting. We also are tentatively holding Tuesday, October 27th. We had benchmarked that as another special meeting should we need it. And maybe we don't need to decide that right now. We can look at the materials in the October packet, October 20th packet, and then have additional conversation as needed, and then bring it back November 17th at the next following regular commission meeting. So
sounds good.
Is there a way too that we could probably add a section in the organizational chart that that includes the fire chief? And the purpose of that is to make sure that the fire chief is kind of on board of what's happening and what he or she thinks the direction the fire commission should go in, and it's meeting the needs of not only the fire commission, but it's also meeting the objectives of the fire department that's servicing us or providing service for us. And in that way, we have all angles of expertise, so to speak, and buy-in. I think buy-in is very important, especially in the position we're in today.
Yeah, good point. Very good.
Where would you see that, Melvin? Would that be an objective, a new goal, or would it be just a statement in the report?
Maybe in all three,
Okay.
And so that it becomes redundant. And so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
So Melvin, you're looking for like a unification, a solidarity.
Right. Yeah, very similar to the unified command system in a sense.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And,
super.
And that way, we touch all bases and we know that we haven't missed anything. And so although, myself and Denise both have some very long-term fire service experience, I'm not on top of the latest and greatest any longer. You know, I've been out of the department now for 8 years, and so I don't have my finger on the pulse as I once did, and so the fire chief does.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
Good point.
Okay. Let's see. Next slide, Sarah. I think that is our
Thanks.
our big thank you. And for the good of the order, any final thoughts from the commission, from the stakeholders, the community members here? We greatly appreciate your time tonight and just all the input we've had. This has been a great discussion. Super helpful.
Thank you. Thanks,
Roger,
Marcy.
Let me ask
Great.
Roger, are we in the right direction here? Is that?
I feel good about it. I appreciate everyone's really wise comments about what we need to add to it and where it makes sense to add some depth. So I like it.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to our stakeholders for being here. I just can't tell you how much I appreciate it. The support, particularly now, feels good.
And Sarah, thanks for sending out the alert today. It was great.
No problem.
All right, are we ready to move to item 4, which is adjournment?
Yes.
We got it. Okay.
Lead us.
Okay.
Take it away.
Thank you, Marcy. If there's nothing else on that topic, we'll move to item 4, which is this will conclude the October 1st special meeting of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District. The meeting is adjourned at 8:31 p.m. The next regular meeting will take place via Zoom on October 20th at 7 p.m. Special Project Services Consultant Hendricks, please stop the recording.